started the recording.
Very good. All right. I'd like to call this executive meeting, February 3rd, to order. Take a roll call, please.
Mr. Taylor,
Here.
Mr. Elliott,
Here.
Ms. Williams,
Here.
Ms. Hancock,
Here.
Mr. Fagan,
Here.
Mr. Hart, or Ms. Hart. Excuse me, Paula. Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you very much.
Can I interrupt? Mel, is the live stream on?
No, it's not like appeared, so we'll have to upload it.
Okay.
After. Yeah. And then actually, Mr. Bedell is here as well, but he's in the attendee zone.
Okay. All right. So let's, I'm going to start with the minutes of the nominating committee and executive meeting. Let's just do the nominating committee first. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as read?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second motion.
Okay. Are there any questions or is there anything that we want to talk about?
Yes, I do have an item for discussion, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
The nominate committee would like to schedule a meeting before the next comprehensive plan meeting on February 24th to come up with nominations to replace the vacancy for the vice chair created by Mr. Cunningham resigning.
Okay. And so everybody has heard that. And I don't think we talked about that at all. Is Jacob on?
Yes, I'm here, Mr. Taylor.
Would you like to just, well, a little discussion about Mr. Cunningham? You probably, I know, but I would rather you talk
Absolutely.
about it.
So Mr. Cunningham tendered his resignation to the Planning Commission, or to the county executive, effective immediately back in January. And we will come back to this commission to thank Mr. Cunningham. We will prepare a resolution from this commission to thank him for his many years of dedicated service to this commission and to the residents of St. Louis County. And his leadership will be missed here on the commission. So he served this commission very well. But with his vacancy now, that does leave a vacancy in the executive leadership team. And per the bylaws of the Planning Commission, the chair can, at the request of a member, can set the date for a new nominating committee meeting, which can be on February, like Mr. Fagan had requested, on February 23rd or 24th, I believe.
Yeah, the 24th.
Yes, Monday, February 24th. At which point the nominating committee can discuss and make a selection and then present that selection to the full commission at your next regular executive meeting, on which will occur on March 3rd.
Thanks, Jacob. You clarified a little bit right there what's going on with Lou, and I appreciate it. Thank you much. So we had a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Nays, ayes have that. And also, we had an opportunity to read our executive board meetings from our last month. I'm looking for a motion for approval of those minutes.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Nays, ayes have it. Thank you very much. Committee reports. That was our committee reports, our last comprehensive planning committee report of January 27th. Anybody like to discuss that? Is Paul here?
No, Paul is actually, he's sick. If any of the members of the committee want to report out, they can do so.
Sure. I did not make it down there personally, but I did attend virtually. And as always, Paul does a wonderful job of discussing what's going on with the plan, where we've been with the new comprehensive plan at current, and what to expect in the future and more meetings. And it was a a lot of questions towards the end after he had his presentation, which I was surprised it lasted the whole time that he had suggested it would last. So it worked out good. I just hopefully I was hoping to get down, or it didn't make it, but it was a very good meeting and well attended. I think so. What do you think, Todd?
Oh, they're unmute. Yep, I concur with that. Paul did a fantastic job going over everything. Lots of questions, a lot of participation in there, and you know, I was surprised about the amount of people that were actually in attendance at the different spots. But yeah, actually, and one of the things is I was talking with Paul earlier, and looking to have a meeting with Spire to go over this as well. You know, great information in there, and I think, you know, we definitely benefit from it as well. So I think you did a great job, and it's moving right along.
Very good. Anybody else have anything to add? Were we the only two there? Was it you? Of course you were there, Mel. What do you have to say about that?
At the sustainability lab,
Yes.
yeah, we watched, a group of staff watched from the office, attended on Zoom, and just like you two said, there were a lot of good questions in the chat, you know, throughout the meeting, and I thought the discussion was really good. And that other speaker who brought her sort of information about like backyard composting, I think that there was like a natural segue into discussing like such a fine detail program that kind of aligns with what he was talking about on a larger scale. So we thought that was pretty successful as well.
So too. Do you know, is he going to have a few more meetings like that? I'm pretty sure he is, but when's the next one? And where would it be at?
Well, we basically take every opportunity we can to, you know, hop onto other people's meetings and speak or host our own stuff. We're working to, one of the steering committee members is from the Urban Land Institute, and one of the things we're working on is setting up sort of a workshop with them that's not nailed down yet. In terms of the next sort of meeting presentation is, I believe at the end of February, we'll also have the steering committee meeting. So any of the commissioners are welcome to attend the steering committee meeting. I think it'll be Thursday, the 27th.
Right. And in between there, I'm jumping in between
Yeah,
there,
please, Jacob.
we are going to be making a presentation to the Port Authority in the next couple of weeks as well. And as we get farther to an actual draft document, we will then also be having more, we haven't determined the exact dates yet, but there will be additional open houses for the actual draft plan as well. So there's going to be still a lot more outreach to do.
Very good. Appreciate it, Jacob, Mel. Thank you. Anybody else have any comments? Okay. Well, let's move on to the introduction of our new staff that we have.
Keith, can I ask a quick question?
Oh, absolutely. I'm sorry, Sandy. Go ahead.
I wasn't sorry, I was on mute. Hey, Mel, so are you saying that we could consider attending the steering committee meetings if we're available?
So you could.
Okay.
So we'll make sure we get that that information out. It is a virtual meeting, so there's no.
This month will be virtual, although they've been in person the last couple of times. This month will be a virtual version, so be hopefully easier to attend.
Thank you.
Okay. There we go. Our
Okay.
staff introductions.
Yeah, so we want to do sort of, you know, a lot of us, you know, but we do have new staff, one of which is here. So staff that are here, I'd like to present their own, you know, introduce yourself, but I'll introduce the slides for folk who aren't here. In addition to new staff, new county employees, we also have existing county employees that have joined the Department of Planning from the Office of Zoning Enforcement. So that's also some of the impetus for this this exercise. So I think Jacob technically kicks it off, but
Yeah, well, look at that. You all put me as number one. It's not necessary, but You all know me, and just so that you know, my background is that I received my master's in urban planning and policy from the University of Illinois at Chicago, and I started at the county 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago in June, and this coming June. But before I worked as an urban planner, I actually had a lot of experience in retail development or retail services. So I worked at Starbucks. I was the store manager of a small card shop named Carlton Cards, which is kind of like a competitor to Hallmark, but that doesn't exist anymore. I worked for the American Planning Association for a while, and I also briefly did a little bit of campaign work for various Democratic candidates back in the late 2000s. But some of my hobbies and interests when I'm not here at work, because I promise my number one hobby is work, but beyond work, I love trying new restaurants, going to new craft cocktail bars, hiking with my husband Levi and our dog Sammy. I have to leave the cats Edith and Herbert behind because that's not their vibe, and traveling to new places that I've never seen before.
Thanks, Jacob. So I'm
Yes,
Mel,
sir.
Deputy Director. My background, I got my master's in regional and community planning from Kansas State University. After I graduated, I did an internship with the city of Clayton in their planning and development services office. But then my first job out of school was starting here in the planning department as a planner. I was then the land use manager for about a year, and then I've been the deputy director for about 2 years now. Like Jacob, I do love working, but some of my other hobbies are I'm back in my reading era. I'm also really into podcasts lately. I do like a little bit of crafting, I kind of hyper fixate on different sort of media. So I don't really, my craft right now is like my planner. It's sort of like a journal, scrapbook, daily planner thing. So that's my artistic outlet right now. And then I did wrap up a season as third baseman for the Dugout Divas in the county softball league. Paul and I were both on a team with the county executive's office, and we did get third place in the league. So it's pretty good stuff.
I'm Abby. I'm the senior planner in current planning. So I got my master's in public policy administration from UMSL, and I started here in 2021. So this is my first, adult job out of college. Prior to working here, I interned at WashU's Medical Center, their redevelopment corporation, which focused on neighborhoods around WashU Med School. Outside of work, my primary hobby / interest is tap dancing. I teach tap 3 to 4 nights a week, and I take tap at least 1 night a week and I just do it basically every day, nonstop. Gretchen hears me tap dancing while I'm eating lunch. That's basically everything.
Yay, Abby, I'm a tap dancer also.
No way.
Oh,
Mhm.
Oh, we're gonna have a planning commission talent show for
But I
sure.
haven't tapped in a long time, so yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Well, Abby teaches a class for adults, right, Abby?
I do on Thursday
This semester?
evenings.
Hmm.
I'll email you, Orvetta, about not my class, but a different class.
Okay.
So then the mirror of Abby's position, Paul is the senior planner for long range planning. He also has a master's of science in urban planning from SLU. That program, rest in peace, no longer exists. He started with us, I guess, the same year that Abby did. But before he was in the Department of Planning here at the county, he was a planning technician for the city of Chesterfield, and then also did some work with the regional chamber. His hobbies also include reading. We're big readers in the Department of Planning. Paul is a really good cook. Yeah, he's been talking about hot dish recipes lately. And then he and his family, they do a lot of outdoorsy activities. They're big walkers and strollers. And then one of our new employees, Marilyn, she's our office supervisor. So she filled the role previously held by Anita Johnson. But before she came to us, she was the legislative assistant for Councilwoman Dunaway, the former councilwoman of the 2nd District. So she did that for, leading up and through Councilwoman Dunaway's entire term. Before that, she worked in sort of the financial services industry for different investment advisory firms. She did that for a long time. Her hobbies include photography, crocheting. She said running and yoga while her knees are willing. And then her fun fact about this photo is she's like in a tree at the Whimsical Woods in Faust Park, which is a county park. And we love having Marilyn on board. And a lot of you already know Debbie Sahlberg. She's our intermittent retiree planner. So she was a long-time county planning staff member who did retire in 2021, having started in June 1986. She's like me, she's a wildcat. She got her master's in planning from Kansas State. Before she came to the county, she did work for the city of Topeka, Kansas as deputy director in the community development department. And then she also worked for the Southwest Kansas Regional Planning Commission. Debbie's also a really good cook. She's a good baker too, but she's a good savory cook as well. I think Debbie's probably capable of preparing anything. We're really lucky. She's also into murder mysteries, and then she's a cat mom to her baby, Shasta May, who shows up on the Zoom meetings sometimes. We love that. And then Gretchen's got her master's in public administration from SIUE and started in the county in 2022. Before that, she did an internship with the city of Highland, Illinois, where she got to sort of shadow she got to follow the economic development arm and the planning arm from the city of Highland. And then her hobbies and interests are reading and baking. And then a fun fact about Gretchen is she's getting married in honestly like 6 or 7 weeks. It's the end of next month. So that's really exciting for her, and we're really excited for her as well. Just trying to make sure Peter's not on, right? Yeah. So Peter, another one of our amazing planners, also has his master's in planning from St. Louis University. Started here in the planning department in the fall or the midsummer, I think, of 2022. But Peter has a lot of experience with housing services. He did outreach here in St. Louis with Ascend. I know when he was in this, he did some homeless services work there as well. He also is a cook, and he likes exploring St. Louis. So not a local, a transplant, happy to be here. And then Aminat, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Aminat. I had my master's in planning from Iowa State University, and I started with the county in September of 2023. Before joining the county and during my master's program, I interned with the Minnesota Department of Transportation as a planning intern. And before coming to the United States generally for my master's, I worked as a planner with the Lagos State Physical Planning and Urban Development, and I also worked as a planner with Lagos State Ministry of Transportation. My hobbies and interest is exploring new food because it's just something that is so personal and cultural to people, and I like to learn about people's culture. And I'm also interested in anything that betters my life right now.
So Summer comes to us from a different sort of background as well. She has her bachelor's of arts in quantitative social science. So she was really excelling in a lot of the comprehensive plan work that has to do with data analysis and literally the surveys we put out. She was really enjoying a lot of that work. She's been with us for just over a year now. Before that, she worked at I can't remember, BioSTL in sort of the startup field. She likes watching the orchestra. She's also, I think she's like moonlighting as an usher at the orchestra, which I think she's really enjoying. And then she put on here New York Times Letterboxd, but I know she likes all of those puzzles. We're also a big, we're kind of a crossword group of late, I think. So we like those puzzles. So then Amber has been a county staffer. She and I actually started at the county around the same time in the summer of 2017. I did not know this. She has her BA in anthropology. That's actually brand new news to me right now. She also has her master's in public policy administration from UMSL, and she started in the county in the Office of Zoning Enforcement when it was housed in the Department of Transportation and Public Works in the Code Enforcement Division. But we have joined our whole zoning team together again inside of the Department of Planning. So that's why Amber is new to a new face to the Planning Commission. So before that, Amber also did some nonprofit work and some policy research work. Amber put gardening baking as one of her hobbies. She's a really good baker too. She is, I guess I really only have had sort of sweet treats from Amber, but we are lucky.
She's almost, I mean, she's like a master baker. I mean,
She is.
she is
She's
phenomenal
got
at
the
it.
gift. Yeah, and she's so creative with it too. And then she and her partner Alex and their dog, they like hiking as well. Her dog's really cute. And then also with Amber came this is the second time today I've almost called Joan Zone, which honestly I love. But Joan Holtzman, she's a zoning specialist that works with Amber, reviewing zoning on permit applications. So Joan is, doing work that touches a lot of our residents most directly. A lot of the times their experience with county government is when they're trying to pull a permit, to do something on their property. So Joan is excellent at working with county residents and the development community to accomplish those goals, and she's been doing it for a very long time. So the lore is that I think Joan started when she was 17, which I know looks like it was only a couple of years ago, but it's been like 4 decades. So she's worked in many county departments, but she was in the public works for a very, very long time. She likes walking. She likes cross stitch. She likes hanging out with her daughters and their kids. I think she's got her youngest grandchild, I think is about maybe 6 months old now. Very, very super cute. And then Bennett, I think you might be last. Save the best for last.
Yeah, so I'm Bennett. I got my bachelor's in public administration. I started with the county last month, and before that, for about 2 years, I worked for the city's planning department. I was a part of their historic preservation division, and I ran throughout high school and college, so I still do that, and I like reading random stuff, which is usually Wikipedia. So.
And just so the commission knows, Bennett here is he is learning, and he's learning from Abby about how to facilitate your meetings. So he is the one that prepares when there's an application for a change in zoning or special procedure, those kinds of things. He's learning to do all of these things, preparing your agendas, running your meetings. So he is going to be learning that over the next months to become an expert on that, but you will be seeing Bennett on a regular basis, and he has a critical role to play in facilitating your work. So, and I'm really excited that Bennett, you chose to be employed by St. Louis County, so thank you.
And then I don't want to put John on the spot, but I'm considering, Jonathan, putting you on the spot if you want to also just do a little intro blurb about yourself. You're welcome to.
Sure. John Burford. I'm a lifelong St. Louisan. Received my law degree, undergrad and law degree from St. Louis U. I've been with the county counselor's office since 2021, and my wife and I are having a ball with our 2 grandchildren. So those are a couple of things about me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jonathan, you barely look old enough to have children, let alone grandchildren. So congratulations. That's brand new information. I didn't know that.
Jacob, you're my favorite person today. I appreciate that.
And that's why we did this. That's why we did this. So that's a sneak peek into the staff, what we do here, where we came from, what we do when we're not here. So
right.
Now Jake's got the real interesting content here.
Well, yeah, but before I jump into this, I just want to also let the Planning Commission know that we actually have out right now job postings for a new planner. So if you know anybody who's a recent graduate of a planning program who's looking for their first professional planning job, we are accepting applications through the 12th for new planners. So there will be more new faces. Additionally, we have out for a long-range planning manager, so to help with St. Louis County 2050, as well as with the upcoming work that we're preparing for the Spanish Lake Small Area Study. So we've got, there's going to be a new zoning plan reviewer that's joining the team right now, that we're finishing up a hiring process there. And then as we finish up this planner hiring process, we're going to have a new manager for land use that's going to be coming on, that's going to be working very closely with the commission, eventually taking on some of the responsibilities of both Abby and Mel and sort of right sizing everybody's jobs, because Abby and Mel have taken on a lot of responsibility. So I have to publicly thank them right now for the work that they have done to keep these kinds of work processes going, as well as a planning manager for sustainability and environmental resilience. We've got a lot of new faces that are going to be coming, hopefully in the next 6 months, as we gear up for a lot more good work. So we're working really hard, and we're really excited to partner with the 7 of you on making really great recommendations on how to improve the built environment. So lots of good stuff ahead.
Jacob, Mel, thanks for putting this together, this introduction. And I'd like to thank everybody that was here tonight personally, telling us about yourself. That was very good. And Bennett, want to compliment you. You called me today. You sent me an email. You sent me another agenda last week. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. But very good work. Thanks, guys and gals. Thank you. Now we're going to go on with the demographic conditions here.
Yeah, so this is really the sort of the meat and potatoes of this month's education. And I want to dive into some of the unique challenges that we are experiencing here in St. Louis County as it pertains to our population and where we've been over the last 50 years, because it helps guide and make decisions on where we want to be going through the comprehensive planning process. And before we jump into it, I also want to say that most of this data comes directly from Dr. Ness Sandoval. He is a demographer at St. Louis University. He has consulted with us, given us a lot of data, and we've had various conversations. He early in the 2050 process, he came here to Clayton and chatted with us about the demographics of our region. And if you follow him on social media, this is his life. His life is exploring demographic trends, really rooted in St. Louis, but just globally. He looks at sort of how demographics are changing over time. So looking at the demographic hurdles that are shaping our region and our population here in St. Louis County and in the St. Louis metro area. So just from the very beginning, our region is facing significant population challenges. For a significant amount of time now, we have been experiencing a natural population decline, coupled with an out-migration of residents that has been really led by especially a decrease in the number of in the amount of our Black population in our region. And we have a fairly low racial diversity, especially when you compare us to other regions of our size. And we have relatively low numbers of international in-migration. So in terms of definitions, natural population growth or natural population increase is when you have an increase in the populations that's due to your birth and not including migration. So migration is going to be anybody who moves to our area from any place else. So that's in migration. Out migration is the opposite. It's the people who live here now who are moving out of our region and moving someplace else. So those are the ways that migration happens. Immigration is international. You almost never in the United States, there is no sort of like international out migration, but there is international in migration. And then that drives also, coupled with your natural change, which is births versus deaths. Births plus deaths, are you either growing naturally because you have more births than deaths, or are you declining naturally because you have more deaths than births? You couple that with your migration, and that sort of gets what your population growth is. Also, just as a reminder, MSA, Metropolitan Statistical Area, that is a formal definition of a region that consists of a city and its surrounding counties, and the definition of that is established by the United States Census Bureau for all metropolitan areas in the country. And then this term demographic winter is a term that's thrown around and used to describe areas where the localized birth rates are below replacement level and are being outpaced by death rates. So just like on its head, Missouri has entered demographic winter as a whole, as an entire state. We have a high level of natural population decline when you compare us to the other states in the United States. You can see here we have Missouri outlined here in red. We have essentially between 2020 and 2022, we saw a natural decline of nearly 12,000 people in the state of Missouri. Now, is that the absolute worst? No, but Florida, which is up at the top, is sort of an outlier because it has such an incredible amount of in-migration from retirees. It has a higher death rate. So it is, so that is occurring, but it has such high in-migration that it is more than wiped out, and they continue to increase in total population as more and more people move to Florida. So Florida is kind of the outlier in that number. But as you can see, Missouri is experiencing more deaths than it is births. And so you can see this trend, while having been exacerbated through COVID, it didn't start with COVID, and it's not going to revert back to growth for the state of Missouri without real changes. I mean, you can see here all the way back to 2003, which is at the beginning of this chart. The bottom, the red is deaths. The blue at the top is births. And what you really want is you want more births than deaths. That means that you have natural increase. However, the moment that those two lines cross, that means that we've entered natural decrease. The red is now higher than the blue. We now have more deaths than births. You can see these numbers absolutely spiked in 2020 and 2021, but the overall trajectory was already clear going all the way back to the middle of the 2000s that we were seeing declining births and increasing deaths in the state of Missouri. But it's not just the state of Missouri. The St. Louis metropolitan area has entered and is experiencing demographic winter as well. So when you couple just our St. Louis metropolitan statistical area for its natural growth and decline, you can see that it is a mirror of Missouri, that we had our birth rate was declining while our death rate has been increasing. You can see COVID really power charged that. But even in 2023, with our death rate kind of leveling back out, our birth rate continues to decline, and we are seeing a natural decline in our population in this region. Next slide. So this is St. Louis County. This is not just our metro area. This is for us as a county. You can see here that we are simply a mirror of what the metro area and what the state have been experiencing. We actually entered basically at the beginning of the pandemic, we entered demographic winter. We were having more deaths than births. But currently, based on trends, we're not going to revert back to natural increase here in St. Louis County. And yes, COVID exacerbated those challenges, but it did not create them or cause them. But it did impact us particularly profoundly when we compare ourselves to other metropolitan areas. So this is the top 5 here metropolitan areas for decrease. You can see here Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is the weakest. It's the #1 population loss as a metropolitan area. You can see that it was both losing. It was losing its natural decline with 31,000 fewer residents in between 2020 and 2023. Tampa's an outlier because they can still continue to increase their population due to the number of people who move there. But you can see here, St. Louis is the 4th. So we are not doing well even when compared to our regional or to other peer cities since COVID. So again, you can see here, this is telling you the natural negative change in births and deaths for the top 50 metropolitan areas. St. Louis as a metro area is experiencing a low birth rate, a higher death rate, which is leading to a rate of natural change that is negative. This also has long-range impacts on our school-age populations, which has a real impact on how school districts will continue to operate and what areas of our county are continue to be seen as quote-unquote winners and losers in terms of population growth and their viability and vibrancy. So between 2022 and 2025, it is projected that there would have been 146,000 graduates of all high schools within our metropolitan area. But 20 years from now, there will be a significant decrease in the number of students who will be graduating from our school districts. And this will not be spread evenly. You will continue, if trends stay the same, our school districts will be impacted at different rates. Some school districts will continue to do well when they're compared to their peers, but other ones will continue to fall behind, which is going to lead to hard questions for our communities in terms of tax rates, in terms of how do we deal with school buildings, and also how do we ensure that every part of St. Louis County is a desirable place for residents to live, because we know that schools are such a critical draw for communities. And when you have fewer students, you have fewer resources. So the fewer students there are, you get fewer resources from the state, which does then lead to, if you have to fill that unfilled need, there may be also uneven increases in taxation, which we already experience in this region for school districts. In addition to the natural decreases, we are continuing to see a general out-migration of residents. And again, that's people who live here currently and are moving to other places. So you can see here, this is all the counties that make up the St. Louis metropolitan area. And the county continues, St. Louis County continues to see more people move out than move in. So we've highlighted St. Louis County here, bracketed in red. You can see that the blue chart is natural decline. Again, that's births and deaths. So we're seeing more deaths than births here in St. Louis County, and net out migration with 13,862 residents having moved out of St. Louis County. So when you couple those together, negative birth rate and negative migration, you start to compound those population issues and those population problems. You can see here that the main winner in our region continues to be St. Charles County. But what I would also state is that as a raw number, these numbers from St. Charles County are not impressive by any means when you compare these nationally. And additionally, St. Charles County is experiencing continued in-migration, but their in-migration is significantly skews older. Older retirees are heavily moving to St. Charles County, which is going to continue to skew and change their own demographics. And additionally, St. Charles County is seeing, every decade during the census, they are seeing a smaller and smaller increase in their population. And if you look at the developable land in St. Charles County is not terribly far behind St. Louis County, a few decades behind us in terms of running out of developable land. So St. Charles County is really not that far behind St. Louis County in terms of these types of issues. And this has really been notable in how the Black population of our region has been decreasing. So it is particularly precipitous, our loss of Black residents here in St. Louis County. And this chart is for the St. Louis metropolitan statistical area. So this is our entire region, not just the county. But you can see that the Black population, which has been relatively stagnant, which mirrors the overall population of our region in totality, has seen a significant and precipitous decline. While it was exacerbated by COVID, it actually really started back in 2017, 2018, where you started to see a real decline in the Black population. So that's driving a lot of population loss for both St. Louis City and North St. Louis County. Additionally, our region suffers from abnormally low racial diversity and abnormally low international migration for a region of our size. And the problems with that is that the white population typically has a lower birth rate and is typically older than the Hispanic population, as well as immigrant populations. So here shows regional international migration is meager compared to our domestic out migration. So international migration for our entire region is here in blue. You can see that we have relatively low numbers of increase in international migration, folks moving here from Mexico or any place outside of the United States. That is positive, but fairly low. But when you couple it with our domestic migration, which is significantly on the side of losing population, it is more than washed out, and we continue to see a net migration loss out of our region. Although you can see some glimmers of hope that 2023 is actually our lowest net migration out in quite some time. So one of the things that I hope all of you have heard me say before is that I am a perpetual optimist, and I really am. Because there are signs of optimism for the St. Louis metropolitan area that we have to sort of nurture and build upon. And the biggest one is that St. Louis, as a MSA, recorded the highest percentage increase in the foreign-born population of any metropolitan area in the country. So we have seen a 23% increase in our foreign-born population, and that outpaces, as a percentage, any other region in this country. And that is something to be proud of and hopeful for, because they are typically younger individuals that are family ages that can still that are still seeking to have children. And again, you can see here similarly the same sort of information. Our percentage change of our Latino population is increasing faster than most places in the country, and that could possibly be a source of some bending the curve on our demographic situation here in St. Louis. So how does this all tie into our continued work on St. Louis County 2050? I mean, at its core, the number one of the 5 issues that have been identified that we keep hammering and that we keep talking about in this comprehensive plan, and as a reminder, the 5 are population stagnation, are the job skills mismatch, the infrastructure cost burden, resiliency issues. And Mel, did I forget one?
Sorry, my mic was up. Housing cost burden as well.
Housing costs, thank you. Many of the recommendations are designed to address our population challenges. To me, it is the number one work of county government over the next 25 years is to find every way to laser focus on bending the curve from stagnation back towards population growth and vitality through a whole host of things. So again, I am a perpetual optimist, and one of the ways that we at county government are seeking to address this is through the comprehensive plan and making those recommendations, those changes that are going to hopefully lead in 25 years us looking back and saying this was the time when county government took a lead in changing the trajectory. But that's what I've got for you tonight. I just wanted you all to know about our region's demographic realities right now.
Thanks, Jacob. Anybody have any questions for Jacob? I'm sure some you do. I would hope so. You know what? I was looking at the information that you had there in the last couple sections there, and I think it was rolling it all in there when we were talking about the metro area and included Illinois as well. Would that be correct?
That's correct. So when we look at the entire metropolitan statistical area, it includes St. Louis City, St. Louis County, St. Charles County, Jefferson County, Franklin County, but it also includes St. Clair County, Madison County, I believe Jersey County. So it does include Monroe County. So it includes several counties on the Illinois side as well.
So in those 3 counties, even St. Clair County, there's a lot of property and a lot of growth that can happen over there as far as availability. No different than St. Louis County up in North County as well. There's still areas, pockets up there to grow. And then when we were talking about the immigration and as well as the Latino population, where are those pockets? Can you tell me where those pockets are in St. Louis County?
Where those populations are tending to tending to land?
I'm just curious.
No, I mean I feel like there's a growing population in Overland, sort of off of sort of in that general vicinity. while it's not the Latino population, you're seeing a fairly robust increase also in the Southeast Asia or the South Asian population, like Chesterfield, Town and Country, in that sort of mid-county range is where you're seeing a significant increase there. That's another ray of positive population change is in that areas. Although I would have to perhaps explore a little bit more about which areas exactly we're seeing a lot more where the Latino population is really settling, because it can help answer questions. I see Mr. Bedell saying Overland and St. Anne, to see what those communities are offering for, what's drawing those populations to those communities, and if there's anything positive that we can learn from that. But yes, I think Hazelwood also is seeing a fairly robust increase in their Latino populations. So,
Well, thanks, Jacob. Anybody else have any questions for Jacob?
This is Sandy. I just wanted to comment that the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals has been approved for a local chapter.
great.
And that's about 2 years old now. So we're very excited about that.
No, that's great. Because maybe, having organizations like that it's so important to help individuals feel like they can be acclimated to our region, become an active and contributory, to the region, and that it's also going to be a place where they're welcomed, which is going to be so important for us as we seek to change our trajectory in terms of our population.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Jacob. Thank you very much. Next, our new business, we have PC 02-25 May Commercial Properties.
Good evening. PC 02-25 May Commercial Properties is a request for an amended C8 planned commercial district for a 1.09 acre tract on the northwest corner of the intersection of Sulphur Spring Road and Arbor Spring Drive. The proposed use is a dental laboratory and all C6 office and research service district permitted uses. As the Commission will recall from public hearing, this site is located in West County, and there you can see it outlined in red on the aerial. From this larger aerial, you can see some of the single-family residential development to the north and west, and some commercial development along Sulphur Spring Road in the city of Manchester. Also directly south of the site, across Arbor Spring Drive, is a recently built daycare center, child daycare center. This site is currently zoned C8 planned commercial district, and the current ordinance only permits a dry cleaning facility. The proposed use is a dental lab with ancillary offices. The proposed lab would 3D print and mill dental materials such as retainers, night guards, and implants. The petitioner stated that the low volume of materials produced means that they do not have large trucks entering or exiting the site for shipping. They bring things to a FedEx store. The petitioner also said the lab would operate during normal business hours and there would be no patients on site. Here's the preliminary site development plan shown at public hearing. No new structures or parking are proposed. The petitioner proposed facade updates and refacing the existing freestanding sign. The department recommends approval of this request. We find low-intensity commercial uses are appropriate. Furthermore, the C8 procedure allows the Commission and County Council the ability to ensure the use is buffered from the surrounding residences. In recommending approval, the department recommends requiring architectural review. Specifically, the department finds that the structure should be clad in a mix of materials consistent with the surrounding residential development. Secondly, we recommend the petitioner be required to replace excess parking on the west portion of the site with vegetation to provide greater screening from adjoining residences. Lastly, the department recommends that any new signage be monument in style. Oh, and so at this time, I would like to request a motion.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of the department. Could I get a motion for approval?
So
Motion to
moved.
approve. Sorry,
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Is there any change in the sidewalks or anything?
Excuse me. No, they're not proposing any change to the sidewalks.
This is Irvette. I have a question. So the architectural elevation review, are they proposing that they're changing the exterior of the building?
Yes, yes. At
Okay.
public hearing, they said they would like to redo the facade of the structure.
Okay.
And Abby, you'll be bringing that back to the commission for final approval on that.
That's correct.
Any other questions? Okay, we've had a first and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Motion approved. And we're gonna have our planning. What do we got here? Correspondence. Resolution 1-2025.
This is Resolution 1-25. It's a resolution of intent to hold a public hearing regarding regulations for window lighting and signage, commercial vehicle parking, home occupations, legal nonconforming uses, architectural review, landscape escrows, telecommunication towers, and other items that may need clarification. In December, County Council adopted Resolution 7365, which directed the Planning Commission to hold a public hearing regarding regulations for window lighting and signage. The zoning ordinance does not contain regulations for window lighting, but Section 1003.168 has some regulation about the size of window signs. The department finds that it is appropriate to examine these regulations and consider potential updates. The second item of interest is commercial vehicle parking in residential areas. Again, in December, County Council adopted Resolution 7366, which directs the Planning Commission to hold a public hearing regarding regulations surrounding commercial vehicle parking in residential areas. A commercial vehicle is defined in Section 1003. 1020, pardon me, definitions, and Section 1003167, the miscellaneous regulations, contains some regulations about when commercial vehicles may be parked on parcels that are primarily occupied by a single-family residence. And the department finds it is appropriate to examine these regulations to ensure they are in line with the goals of the residential zoning districts. The next section is on home occupations. So home occupations are defined in the zoning ordinance, and they are permitted use in the NU, KP, and all R districts. The department recommends exploring this definition to ensure it is reflective of development in St. Louis County, especially after COVID-19 pushed a lot of business online. The next area of interest is legal nonconforming uses. These are also defined in the zoning ordinance and Section 1003170, nonconforming uses, lands, and structures, provides the regulatory framework for working with nonconforming uses. Specifically, the statement of intent says that nonconformities are not to be expanded and they should be abolished or reduced to conformity as quickly as the fair interest to the parties will permit. The department recommends evaluating this section and determining if it regulates this type of use in a way that's desirable for St. Louis County residents today. The next section is architectural review. Section 1003157, the form-based district of the zoning ordinance, includes street facade requirements and roof and entrance requirements, but it's the only section of the zoning ordinance that contains any sort of architectural review or architectural requirements for buildings, and it's not a procedure that is used very often. The Planning Commission and County Council can require architectural review through the Plan District and Special Procedures, which you do on a regular basis. The department recommends looking into whether these requirements should be adopted into other sections of the zoning ordinance. And then landscape escrows, the Planning Commission and County Council can require landscape escrows through plan districts and special procedures. Typically, they're required to guarantee the cost of required landscaping where the cost of the planting exceeds $1,000. So the county could, in theory, go in and complete those landscaping improvements. The department has developed policies for administering these escrows, but recommends considering if it would be appropriate to adopt these policies into the zoning ordinance. And lastly, the last area of interest is telecommunication towers. Section 1003157B, telecommunication tower regulations, is where the general requirements for telecommunications towers are held in the zoning ordinance. State laws that have been passed since this section of the zoning ordinance was adopted have made some parts of it not enforceable. For example, regulations about what a tower can look like or co-location requirements. So the department recommends reviewing these regulations to ensure that they comply with state statute. So those are the sections of the zoning ordinance that we recommend be considered at a public hearing. And so we recommend adoption of this resolution to hold a public hearing to consider those items.
Right. You've heard the recommendation of the department. Do I have a motion for approval?
Motion for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a first and a second. Are there any questions before?
Yes. First question is, how often is the planning department seeing legal non-conforming uses come up?
Do you want to answer that, Abby, or do you want me to?
I would say we see questions about them on a semi-regular basis. We're dealing with one right now. I would say they come up they typically start when someone is looking to get a reoccupancy permit for a site, and then they come down to us. The Planning Commission saw 2 or 3 recent zoning petitions that would bring single-family residences into conformance with the zoning ordinance. Those were legally non-conforming residences in commercial districts. So it's pretty regular.
So do people use that word? Oh, isn't this grandfathered in? Is that the term they're using? Yeah.
Yeah, that word's forbidden. We only say
Yeah, but that's what they
non-conforming.
use. Oh, it's
Mhm.
grandfathered in.
Mhm.
So do they have issues even understanding when you're,
Yes.
yeah, when you're trying to explain that?
Yes, often.
Does everyone, all the plan commissioners know what that is, legal non-conforming? Jacob, you want to offer a quick explanation?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the purposes of for our zoning ordinance, essentially a use that existed prior to the adoption of the zoning ordinance in 1965 can continue to remain in operation at the same size, at the same scale, at the same location, even if it was located in a zoning district that does not permit that use. The intent of zoning is always to bring legal non-conforming uses ultimately into conformity with the zoning ordinance, to give property owners that time and that leeway for those properties transition over. Now that our zoning ordinance is 60 years old, there really shouldn't be a whole lot of legal non-conforming uses, but there still are. Amber, whom came to planning from the Department of Transportation and Public Works, is actually something she deals with on a very regular basis. And it's very difficult for her to establish a record of legal non-conforming uses, because the technicality in the zoning ordinance states that if you stop using a site for a legally non-conforming use for 6 months or more, you lose non-conforming status. So a lot of times people will lose that status, but county does not have necessarily the easiest way possible to follow along with that for every single parcel. So we do make property owners show and bring the data that shows that it's still legally non-conforming. So legal non-conforming issues are always a lot of research, and they're always very contentious because it's also related to the value of the property, how someone has invested in that property, and what is right for government to how it should apply its regulations in a way that's fair to both the community as well as to individual property owners.
Looks like Sandy had a question.
I was just going to say, we're seeing a substantial number of appraisals kicked back because the residential use of the property is in a non-residential zoning area, and the appraisers are basically saying that, for example, you can't go get an FHA loan. There's some conventional loans you can't get because the property can't be rebuilt in the case of fire.
Right.
So
Like there was a zoning, I don't remember which zoning petition it was, but you just had one at your
That
last.
was 0125 was
Yeah.
that exact situation.
Was that exact situation?
They couldn't
Yeah.
get a loan.
Any other questions on this?
Well, I have a comment that
Go right
the
ahead.
one that got turned down should have just built a cell phone tower because they are the ultimate do whatever they want.
I have no comment on the wisdom of our state legislature in enacting their statutes.
Well, that's just goes beyond the state. It goes on up to the federal.
So I do have one more question. It's about landscape escrows. How is that managed now?
So,
So- Oh, go ahead, Abby.
currently in planned districts in C8s, M3s, and PEUs, and an MXD, and then or special procedures like a conditional use permit. In those conditions of development, we typically include language that says if the cost of required landscaping is greater than $1,000, the developer shall enter into an escrow agreement with the county. And so essentially, those are administered by the department during site plan review. So at the end of, once the site plan is ready to approve, they have to complete this escrow agreement with us and, give us the money to hold on to until the landscaping is installed and has been alive for a certain amount of time, and then we go out and inspect it. And then if it is planted in the way that matches the landscape plan, then we can release those funds.
So you say you mean a planning department staff member goes out and inspects?
That's correct.
So, so when do you know when to go out? I mean,
We're contacted by the developer contacts us
okay,
and tells us that it's planted.
because they want their money back.
That's correct,
Mhm.
yeah.
What I would add to what Abby said is that, like she mentioned, that only applies to, these kind of voluntary planned district or special procedure processes that property owners go through. The subdivision ordinance does require landscaping to be escrowed when there's like a residential subdivision and there is required landscaping, but there's no provision in the zoning ordinance for just development permitted by right. There's no escrow for those required plantings. And then the zoning ordinance also doesn't have specific guidance on how to administer that process, the timelines and such. So a lot of it is department policy. And one of the things we want to consider is how much of that actually does belong in the zoning ordinance versus outside as policy.
Because a common challenge is that a developer will install the plants, and the moment they've finished installing the plants, they give us a call and said, I've installed everything. But if you know anything about installing landscaping, which many of you do because you have professional backgrounds in this, you know that a lot of it doesn't live. So a lot of it end up needing to be replaced. So in the past, the department would, the moment that we got a call, no matter when it was, whether it could be January, it could be the project had literally just planted it yesterday, we would go out and inspect. And we have subsequently changed it to, we only come out during the growing season, as well as instituting it needs to be alive for a certain amount of time, which has led to some pushback from the development community. And so we are just want to look at to see make sure that our process is aligned with best practice for this kind of work.
So Jacob, when you have I'm just going to say new development, let's take, for example, the Quick Trip at Butler Hill and Lee May Ferry and their landscaping there. When they pull their permit, their building permit, is that when you acquire the escrow?
That's correct. So they will have actually already had to provide that escrow before they will ever even get their building permit. It's folded into the process. And so the way that then works is we take their landscaping plan, which you all have seen and approved. You all have approved as part of the process. You approved their landscaping plan. Then through the, through that entire process, they have to take that plan to like a nursery or somebody to give us an itemized cost of the entire cost of the landscaping, and then we escrow for what these landscapers say is the fair market value of the plant of installing these plants.
Very good.
So
Thank you.
Jacob, is it a percentage of those, shrubs or whatever that you go to the nursery, or is it the entire amount?
The entire amount. So whatever the entire amount would be is the amount that is required for the escrow.
Gotcha.
And if this
Which for
is a
some
topic
sites can
of
be quite high.
interest, I think this lends itself well to a future monthly education topic, if this is something the commission is interested in too.
I think a little more education on everything that that we are approving. And I think that's where we're going to have that at the public hearing.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, we have a first and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Nays?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Oh. Ayes have it. And a site plan.
We have one site plan. This is a update to Washington University's comprehensive sign package. This is zoned R6. It's a 90.65 acre tract on the east side of Big Bend Boulevard, north side of Forsyth Boulevard, and south side of Forest Park Parkway. So as a reminder for the commission, institutional uses that are located on 20 acres or more can utilize this comprehensive sign package procedure, which allows them flexibility in the number and location of signs. So this is at Washington University, the Danforth campus, which is located in Mid-County, and there it is outlined in red on the aerial. This is a site exhibit showing the location of all the signs. It's 280 signs total, a mixture of freestanding signs and wall signs. These are, directional signs, building identification signs, and both pedestrian and vehicle directional signs. This is an exhibit showing the various sign types. They have a consistent color scheme and design scheme. And this is the exhibit showing the remainder of the signs. And the department is recommending approval of this package.
You've heard the recommendation of the department. Do I have a motion for approval, please?
Motion for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions or concerns? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. And here. Good to the order. We don't have a public hearing this
No
month, but
February
we do-
public hearing.
But we do
So-
have a comprehensive meeting.
That's correct. There will be a comprehensive planning committee meeting the last Monday of the month. And then as we discussed earlier, there is also the steering committee meeting on the last Thursday of the month. So we'll send that information out to the commission.
And
But then-
also, as part as discussed earlier in the meeting too, we will publicly notice and prepare for a nominating committee
Yes,
also
thank you.
on February 24th as well.
And then Jacob, I was hoping that maybe you would just summarize or tell the commission about the APA Metro Section Award that Mr. Hilsinger received.
Yes, so in December, the Department of Planning submitted to the local American Planning Association section, which is the St. Louis Metro section, a award nomination for his posthumously awarding him an award for his service to the St. Louis County Planning Commission and to the residents of St. Louis County. He was awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award, and Jackie, his wife, as well as their two daughters were in attendance, able to accept the award. The APA section was gracious enough to allow me to present the award to Wayne's family. So we were just wanted to make sure that the commission knew, in addition to the other things that have been given for in honor of Mr. Hilsinger, there was also the local planning section also acknowledged his dedication and service to the profession. So
Very awesome.
That's great.
That's cool.
I think Ms. Hancock may have a question.
I'm sorry, Todd, I didn't realize that you were going to ask for that committee meeting on the 24th. I'm out of town.
Would you be able to do it? We're going to do it virtually.
I'm out of town and not available at that time either.
Okay, scratch that.
Sorry.
You can send a doodle poll if that would be helpful to find a time.
That'd be great.
Very. Thank you.
I will
Thank
do
you,
that.
Mel.
No problem.
Thank you.
Anybody have any other questions or anything else for the good of the order? If not, I'd like to move for adjournment. Do I have a motion?
Motion for adjournment.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Bye.
Bye.
Nays. Ayes have it, and we are adjourned till the end of the month here for our comprehensive meeting, the 24th of this month, and then March 3rd for our executive meeting.
That's right. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good evening.